What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about clippers. We got two heavy hitters today. For number one, we got the TPOB plays in their blue colorway. Colorway really doesn't matter. And we got the Instincts from StyleCraft. Both are crazy good clippers. Both have their fans. But which one is really worth your valuable money? Money is tight these days sometimes, and I can definitely understand as a barber, we don't want to spend so much money on these clippers. But which one is really going to be good for your wallet? If you're cutting every day, or if it's just something that performs right out of the box. We're going to go over all that, the feel, the power, the performance, and I'll tell you at the end which one I would personally grab for myself and why. Let's get into it. First off, both these clippers are pretty solid, but the StyleCraft Instinct does have a very premium feel as it has a metal outing. It also comes with these 3 face guards that you can use to change the color of your clipper, which I think is pretty neat and cool. But it's something that you'd expect to last. I have seen a little bit of reviews saying that it is too loud. I mean, it is 12,000 RPMs. We're going to talk about that later. But they are a little heavier, which can be nice if you're very heavy-handed and you like it like pretty solid in your hand. But the TPOB plays, though, they come in with a more modern and sleek feel. Lightweight design. I mean, it's very ergonomic. You got these things in the back where you put your hands. Very, very, very ergonomic. It also comes with a very nice lever. I mean, that thing is just crisp. It's got two speeds on it. So, it's good for detailing. When you want to detail, you put it on that lower speed. When you want, very fast, very effortless cutting, you put it on that higher speed. But, very, very easy to use and maneuver around the head, especially when you're going into tight areas. And, yeah, that's it. I know a lot of people like the weight of the StyleCrafts, but after using both, you start to realize that comfort, pulls a little bit towards the TPOBs, just because when you have something in your hand that is so ergonomic and it just literally fits in your hand like a glove, you start to feel the difference after, cutting long days. And that's where the plays start to pull ahead, in my opinion. It's just in the comfort feel. The StyleCrafts are a very, very small clipper, and with that comes some good things, but with that also comes some bad things. You can have these clippers that are too big for your hands, right? You can have a Babless or pretty big. But I feel like this clipper right here is just very, very good design. So in my opinion, I think that's where the TPOB pulls a little bit ahead of the StyleCraft in this part. All right, now let's talk motors. The Instincts pack a lot of torque in their clipper. I believe it goes up to 12,000 RPMs, which, that's great for going through coarse hair or hair that isn't just going to cut effortlessly. But it doesn't no problem. But sometimes that raw power can be a little bit too much when you're going to detail and you take off a little bit more than you would like. It can get really warm quicker, and you can definitely feel it after a couple cuts. I mean, the blade can get pretty hot, and sometimes you got to buy a different blade that's got some other technology on it that helps with it getting a little hotter. But the plays, on the other hand, in my opinion, they're really balanced. It has this oil reservoir in it, and I have the chunk blade on my plays. But as someone that has used both clippers, I would say pretty equally. I've had these for a little while now, and I've had my Instincts for probably around 6 months. I can get a long run time out of these. It runs for a long, long time. But the Instincts are solid as well. They also run for a solid amount of time. But you'll notice the plays just go longer in between charges. I mean, and that's what matters when you're in the shop all day. I mean, you're going back-to-back cuts. You need something that's going to go longer and be able to perform at its highest peak without, sacrificing being dead or something like that. But you can tell that this clipper is probably better tuned for daily cutting and hourly cutting just because of the way it was designed. I mean, it has these oil reservoirs built into the blade so that whenever your clipper gets hot, it just feeds itself oil and make sure your clipper doesn't get hot. But yeah, that's where we're gonna go right into our next topic. Let's dive a little further into the blades. So this comes originally with the XL Play blade. I think that blade is great. It also has that oil reservoir that we're talking about. But the blade I chose for my clipper is the chunk blade. I mean, just look at that, bro. It opens up to a full, nice one. It also is fully zero grabbable. It's very, very good blade. It hasn't gotten hot yet, and I do back-to-back cuts. I probably have 6 cuts back-to-back sometimes, and I'll use it and it does not get hot on me, which is one thing that I really do like about the clippers is that they don't get hot. They're very, very, very nice. But the instincts come the instincts come with this blade right here. This is the SC Vapor blade. So that if you don't know what that is, that's kind of a taper and a fade blade kind of put together. It's like a little flatter, easier to fade out those harsh lines. The blade is used for getting sharp lines out and, you know, overall just cutting very, very nice and precise. They can bite also if you're not used to them, you know, using it on some of your sensitive skinned clients. These clippers can definitely do some damage. It's happened to me in the past. It's happened to a bunch of other barbers, but I've definitely found that with these clippers, they're a little too powerful, and also the blade is a lot very, very, very sharp. So, you know, the plays though, this blade feels very, very smooth. Like I said earlier, it's got those oil reservoirs, so it's never gonna get hot. It just glides very effortlessly against the head, and it also goes through bulk, especially the chunk blade. Goes through bulk very, very effortlessly. You don't have to put a lot of effort into when you're cutting. They're very buttery. I found that you can do long sessions without really irritating your client's scalp. Like I know sometimes I'll be cutting with the instincts when I didn't have these, and my clipper would just get hot, and I would go to cut my client, and they'd be like, "Oh, too hot," and it would burn their head a little bit, you know. And that's honestly why I decided to get these, was just because I've heard so many great things about these, and now I can, you know, come on here and tell you a little bit about these, and, you know, let you know what the real deal is. And with the TPOBs, it comes with a adjustable zero gap tool already, so the adjustment on this tool is just insane. It's pretty easy to adjust. It's very easy to zero gap. I don't have mine fully set to being zero gapped right now, but they are pretty close. They're close enough to get that bulb line out. But you don't have to do much to adjust these. You don't have to take apart the whole thing. It's just like any ordinary clipper, but it is very, very nice. Now here's one thing I think doesn't get talked enough about these clippers is the noise. When I'm in my chair or when I'm cutting, I always am concerned about the client's well-being. I'm concerned about, you know, are they getting too hot? Is it too hot inside my garage or my barbershop? Or is the clipper too loud, or is the clipper getting too hot, right? So, you know, with such a high quality clipper like the Instincts, the blade and the motor are very, very loud just because of the high RPMs it makes. It makes up to 12,000, which is crazy for a clipper, but that comes with some costs, you know. This clipper is the loudest clipper I've ever had in my life. And I have to probably warn my clients before I even cut them, just because it's so loud. I mean, like putting this next to my ear sometimes just bothers me, and I'm not even getting a haircut. But just imagine what some clients think when you pull out this thing and it's loud as heck, right? So, you know, some barbers like that. It's louder, you know, you can kind of hear the crunch a little bit, but some people don't. But in my opinion, it's what the client likes, because at the end of the day, if they come home and their ears are ringing, that's not a good look for your business. That's not a good look for the haircut. Even if the haircut was great, if they come home and their ears are ringing, they got a headache from the clippers, they're not coming back. But just, I mean, like, give a listen to these, like, that is loud. That is really, really loud. Nobody wants to hear that during a haircut, right? And that's when we come in with the plays. This is probably the quietest clipper I've ever had. This clipper, and I'm not sponsored or anything. Like, I'm doing this because I want you guys to see that this clipper is the real deal. And, you know, all those videos that TPOB posts are not a joke, bro. Like, this clipper is the real deal. The plays are way quieter, bro. You can literally tell right out of the box, not even oiled, that this clipper, like, look, listen to that. Listen to that. That's on its highest setting. It doesn't sound a third as loud as that. These clippers have a smoother sound. You know, it provides less hand fatigue, so you're not tired at the end of the day holding these clippers all day. They're very, very light and effortlessly to hold, and they also are not loud. Like, that's something when you're 5 or 6 cuts into the day that you're going to want to have on your side, just so you can last longer while cutting hair. You know, some of us are doing 12-hour days. Some of us are doing 8-hour days. No matter what, I know you guys are coming home tired, and this clipper is definitely going to be an investment for you. If you're coming home, your hands are aching, you know, maybe your ears are hurting just from the loud clippers in the shop all day. But definitely would recommend these. And they're lighter, so it's easier to flick with, get out those harsh lines. But for blending and detail work, they just feel really natural. Like you don't have to fight with the clippers to even get a line out, which I really like, and I think is really beneficial if you are going to be a long-term barber. So when you stick these clippers side by side, power, comfort, performance, usability, it really depends what you value the most as a barber. If you want that old school metal build and raw power, the StyleCraft Instincts do their job. They look tough and they do hit strong. But if you want something that feels right in the hand, cuts clean without fighting you, and just, overall it's just a great clipper, the TPOB plays win that for me. At the end of the day, the plays just make more sense for everyday barbers. They're consistent, they're comfortable, and they're just straight up fun to use. I mean, like, I genuinely enjoy cutting with these clippers. The StyleCrafts are good, don't get me wrong, but the TPOB blades are just the perfect mix of that smoothest power and control that makes them stand out. And the best thing about this company is that it is a company made by a barber for barbers. And I think that that is the best, because he listens to his community and changes things when they need to be changed, and actually listens to us because he was a barber once himself. So if you're choosing between the two, I would go with the plays. You feel the difference in your first cut, in my opinion. If this video helped you out, drop a like and subscribe. This is going to be the end of the video, and let me know in the comments what clipper you are currently using right now. I got more comparison videos coming soon. Also got some more interviews coming soon, because I loved doing those. If you want to be personally interviewed, DM me on Instagram. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. God bless, and I'll see you guys in the next one.